Hiding behind
I love you guys.
I love you guys. We have fun.
We have fun. All right, Dr. B, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Now, this is round 2. We messed up on the first round, but I wanted to lead off because we talked a little bit at Hidden House Cafe before we got here about vaccinations, and something you said really opened my eyes to some just unique insights into vaccines and what they are into. So can you explain a little bit about a couple of the cases you were telling us about at the cafe?
One of them was a 9-year-old girl, and the other's about a 55-year-old woman. Uh-huh. And the 9-year-old girl's parents started to think that maybe too many vaccines was not going to be good for the kids. So she decided to have all the kids shots in the leg. And sure enough, right over the leg that had all the shots, and they stopped the shots when she was 5, she started to develop leg pain, and then it turned out to be a tumor, and it turned out to be a really aggressive type of tumor. And so which was rare. It was rare, but now it's becoming more popular.
Was this the osteosarcoma?
It was a type of osteosarcoma. And I typed in, Google Scholar search, and then I put vaccines behind it. And sure enough, vaccines are a causative factor of it. Not contributing, a causative factor.
Really?
And
so it's more than just correlation. It's
a big deal because,
Wow.
I mean, you're injecting heavy metals, you're injecting foreign pathogens, you're injecting an inflammatory response, all of these things, if it's in the same locale. And what's mind-blowing is when kids are going in for multiple shots, they'll shoot one arm here, one leg there, and they're not thinking that all the shots are connected to the same body. So there's an exponential effect.
So this is the second patient you've seen that has developed some sort of cancerous tumor at the location of where they got the...
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And the other gal, she's a nurse, okay? And so, she was in the whole thing where since 2010, they're forcing vaccinating these people to keep their job. And she would always get it in her thigh. Sure enough, I mean, a few years earlier, she had breast cancer, and so now she's in that world where she's categorized as having cancer in the past.
She's been labeled.
Yeah, so anytime you develop anything else, they're thinking metastasis or something else. And so now she has this leg tumor that it's weird because I x-rayed it, and it has pretty significant borders where it's not like exploded. And I think that we could solve it conservatively. And she doesn't want to do the medical route because they just said, hey, look, you're going to be in a wheelchair for about a year. You're probably going to lose your leg because we're just going to radiate the heck out of it and burn all the tissue in the area. And they don't want to biopsy it because if it is metastasis, it's going to spread it faster. And I mean, their theory and idea for this is nuts.
Wow. That's the first time, because I always thought, I was telling Kate on the way over here that I just never really put 2 and 2 together. I don't know why I didn't think about this, but the correlation, or you say the causation of vaccines to cancer and other diseases like that, I always just thought, okay, well, systemically it's spreading throughout the body, and eventually it's going to hit an organ and find a weak link somewhere and develop a cancer, and then maybe like an organ or a tissue somewhere. But I never really thought about the correlation of it actually developing something at the site of the injection.
It's a trip. When you think the needle's going in, it's not going in the veins. It's not, for sure, hopefully it's not going to pierce an artery. So it's going into what's called an intramuscular area. So it gets in that muscle, in the fascia, around that fascia, it gets absorbed by macrophages, these big eating cells that eat up pathogens, and then it gets put in the lymph system, it gets put in the venous system, it's put all through the systems, and then it gets into the body, where the body recognizes this pathogen and creates antibodies towards it. And then that's how the gauge of the vaccine's effective. Like when you hear the flu shot was 70% effective this year. Okay, great. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Okay, it means that 70% of the time it developed antibodies. Okay, and the theory is that if you have a bunch of antibodies, you're either protected from being exposed to the wild pathogen or that you can mount a defense quicker.
So that's so bizarre, because effective in their worldview only means that your body was able to develop antibodies, but that doesn't even mean anything if the body doesn't have strong antibodies to make, or if it doesn't create enough antibodies or the right antibodies. I mean, this is all just, when they say effective, and that effective is tied to just the body making antibodies. What does that even mean? In
really,
terms of effectiveness.
We're not going to have a good conversation if you keep bringing the science in.
I need to just steer clear of the science and.
This is the cool thing. Okay, we're talking back in the 60s. They had this group of patients, and they had a condition called agamma-globulinemia, okay, which means they couldn't form antibodies at all. Okay, and they recovered from diseases at the same rate.
Wait a sec. Okay, so these people couldn't develop antibodies.
Not at all.
And how many people were in this group, or do we know?
It's consistent. It's just like being born with Down syndrome, or it's a congenital anomaly, possibly not a defect, but knowing that this group couldn't produce antibodies. And so the theory of antibody production, that if you have a bunch of antibodies, you're protected, few antibodies, you're more vulnerable, that theory doesn't hold true at all.
So these people couldn't develop any antibodies or create them. And then what happened to them? Did they develop a sickness or flu, or what was this sort of study?
Sickness, flu, anything. But if they got exposure to chickenpox or measles or mumps or in any type of common pathogen,
they overcame it?
They overcame it in the same time frame, the same sequelae, the same fever response, diarrhea, vomiting, whatever the immune system response was common, and then within 2 weeks or so they were all better, just like everybody else.
These people weren't Amish people; they're just regular. It wasn't some like unique group; it was just regular people, right?
Regular old people with this congenital anomaly.
Okay, so my question is, why doesn't? I mean, I know why, because I know why, but just for the sake of argument, why doesn't the medical industry look at something like that and apply it to the vaccines in terms of effective creating antibodies? Where's the breakdown? This is a logical question, right?
It's a logical question.
Maybe?
It really
I don't
is.
know.
Except they have no other way to measure it. Because how can you do this? Let's say you take 5-6 people in a room, you give them all a shot. Okay, how do you gauge that shot's effective? Do you dump a bucket of virus over each one of them?
Right.
Okay, and say, well, the ones that got, or then you got to expand that study group to where half of them are getting the shot, half are getting a placebo, which isn't supposed to have an effect.
Right.
And then dump a bucket of virus over each one of them. But then you might say, well, what are their sleep patterns like? What's their stress levels like? How did they all have the same bowel movements? Did they all have the same,
dietary habits?
Dietary habits. I mean, there's so many different factors. So what was that one saying we were talking about? It's difficult for someone to believe something if their income depends on them not believing it.
Right. That's so something on the flip side, on the completely opposite side of the spectrum of that. I'm sure you guys know about Wim Hof, the guy that does the breathing and the ice baths. And all that.
Yeah.
Well, he did a study where he was actually injected with some sort of viruses. I forget what it was, but
it was something gnarly though.
Yeah, it was something really, really dangerous that he was injected. So he has this whole breathing technique that he does, and I know you talk a lot about that. Actually, you mentioned that in the course. But he has this whole breathing technique that he does, and I think before that he did his ice bath treatment, which is supposed to have an effect on the immune system. So he did the ice bath treatment, then did his breathing exercises, and then he sat in a hospital bed and was willingly injected with like these known viruses that were really dangerous. No effect on his body. No effect. So that shows on the opposite side, okay, so vaccines aren't creating an immune response if it's not tied to the antibody production on that side. On the other side, he's able to develop an immune response and kick this virus that he was injected with simply through breathing. So on both sides, you have cracks in the armor, but no one's talking about it.
It's kind of cool because if you correlate it with the technology of the Human Genome Project. Okay, planned in '84, started in '93, all of this, and it's really an exciting time because we're going to map out the blueprint of the human body
and then monetize it.
Oh, well,
we'll figure out a way to make money from it.
100,000 proteins the body produces there should be about 100,000 genes. You identify the protein that causes cancer or diabetes. So you can give a drug that'll interrupt that protein production. Oh,
brilliant.
my gosh, brilliant. Except, okay, it turns out we got about as many, genes as a mouse or a fruit fly. Okay, so about 20,000. And so there's a control above the genes. So now there's an epigenetic control. So what controls that gene expression? What controls its suppression? Radically altered that thought process. Well, the same things happen in immunology. Well, you can't measure antibodies because that's not accurate, except that's what's entrenched in the dogmatic view of this being proven to be effective or not effective. I mean, it's kind of a controlled media. It's similar to North Korea, but, we're not living in North Korea where we have no access to any internet.
Right.
And you can go through and see, what years the CDC says, we nailed it. We got exactly the right viruses circulating the environment in our shot. And then, we missed it completely. There's absolutely no correlation between the shot and what's circulating.
Right.
There's no difference in hospitalizations, illness, or progression in the years they get it and the years they don't.
Say that again. There's no difference in
think of this. If you're doing a shot, okay, that's supposed to protect the American public from hospitalizations or deaths from influenza. And you have a year that you absolutely nail the shot. You got exactly the pathogens circulating in the environment. And then the next year you don't, or the next 2 years you don't. There's no differences in hospitalizations, occurrences, or anything
I see.
in the flu. There's no correlation there. So, because in theory, if the antibodies were actually really protective, then you should see a very low rate of hospitalizations and deaths when they do nail it, and a very high rate of hospitalizations and deaths when they don't nail it.
Yeah, you should see that.
You should, and there's no correlation like that. This is why it doesn't make any sense. I mean, 2010 on, they're forcing healthcare workers to get the shot. And I'm talking not just healthcare workers. I'm talking people at an accountant in the basement of a hospital having to get a flu shot. For a Hep B shot or a DPT shot. I mean, all of these things are
no amount of money would. No, gosh, I'd be out of it. I mean, it's easier said than done because people's, they're paying for their children and all. Well,
I'll bring up the example of what we were talking about at the coffee shop.
Awesome story.
So the speech pathology office I work at, they were a little slow, and they're like, we need more kiddos coming through. What can we do to stir up some business? So the owner, God bless her, I love her, I'm good friends with her. She says, I wonder if we could start contracting out with Kaiser, because they're a whole other umbrella that we haven't really been under, and there's a bunch of kids they could send our way. So she contacted Kaiser. They said, yes, we'd love to send you guys people. But if you do, we need to know that your whole office has been vaccinated for the flu, flu shot to work with these kids, as well as everyone needs to get the TB test. And I said, and so she basically went and asked the therapist, how do you guys feel about this? And immediately, most people were like, I'm not getting that. You can't force that on me to work with kids. They've been therapists for some of them 10 years. They've never had this happen before. So little Kaiser, big Kaiser, can come and just say, hey, in order to work with you guys, we need to require this, and this. Well, it went a step further. So we were pretty impressed that most people were like, no. So she said, okay, pulled the plug, was like, I'm not going to force my employees to get anything. I was talking with one of the other girls up front, and I said, even getting that TB test isn't good. And she goes, really? And I go, yeah, have you looked what's in that? Because when I started a job cutting hair at a mentally disabled facility in Garden Grove last January, they required the TB test. And I'd already had some issues going on, so I thought I'm not going to stick this stuff into my body. I'd had it when I worked at the YMCA. I never thought about it years ago. So I looked it up. It's full of polysorbate 80, all kinds of, formaldehyde. God knows what's in that stuff. And it bubbles up under your skin. It goes away. Well, where's it going? First of all, it's not just disappearing and what do you call that? Evaporating. Yeah. It's going somewhere. So anyway, when I had talked to my doctor about it, I said I wasn't willing to take that job if I had to get the TB test. And he goes, no, there's a blood test. He goes, you can get your blood. And I go, they can actually draw your blood and do it outside of your body to test for TB? He goes, oh, absolutely. It was like $400 out of my pocket, but I'm like, to me, it was so worth it. So I got the $400 blood test versus them shooting that thing. But I thought the average person isn't going to do that, They just stick out their arm and say, do the TB test and it's all good. But that's the state of wow, everything's becoming so intertwined and so dark, so muddled, so murky and weird.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's hope in it all, but it was just this, like it felt so oppressive to have somebody like Kaiser say, yeah, we'll totally work with you. We'll send you a bunch of money, you know, but it comes down to income. Like you were saying, that quote at the coffee shop, it's like when it starts to affect people's incomes, you know, like
It's a whole different animal.
what do people really stand for?
And
you know?
that's the cool part, because the income, the money, you would think that health and science would drive this.
Yeah, you'd think.
Health, science, logic, outcome, you know, that'd be where health is going. You know, we'd see, oh yeah, we're doing these procedures to our kids or to our seniors or to, you know, the average workforce, and we're seeing they're getting more productive and healthy and better.
Yeah.
That would be a good sign.
That would be a good sign. Yeah, 1 in 2 kids today have a chronic illness or disease. 50% of our population. We're
1 in 2.
1 in 2. 1 in 2 children have a chronic illness or disease, and we're talking about asthma, allergies, bronchitis, and in 100% of kids, if they're getting vaccinated, I tell the parents, okay, which one do they have? Think of 3 B's and an S: behavioral, bowel, breathing, or skin.
Oh,
Okay, I mean, what do they got? Oh, well, they do have eczema, but isn't
Right.
Isn't that normal?
Isn't that
they
normal?
do have cradle cap, but that's being a baby.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's just a baby.
This overgrowth of candida on top of their head, that's just normal.
That's
Oh,
just-
totally normal. You know, asthma inhaler drugs, you know, 1 in 4 kids is doing that. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is nuts.
But that's why we're right on the crux. We are in the dark ages.
Yeah.
And that's what we keep on talking about in our videos, because the things that are being required and forced on our population, they're not based in science. The doctor's recommendation. I mean, there's a big argument now on blood pressure. You know, when you ask the average person, they say, well, what's normal blood pressure? Well, 120/80. Really? Who came up with that?
And it just got changed.
It got changed, kinda.
I thought they rolled it out and it was like, these are the new numbers. No?
Kinda.
What were the new numbers?
Yeah,
Well, the 120/80 was Joint National Committee 6. Okay, they meet about every 10 years, and this was in 1994.
okay.
That sounds so shady. It's like
lasted-
Sector 19.
I
Like,
know.
what are all those?
Yes, so the Joint National
like a TV
Committee.
show.
Well, when
Shady.
you look it up, I mean, it's hospital organizations, it's doctors, it's pharmaceutical reps. You know, and they get together and decide out what your physiology should be.
Okay.
So Joint National.
That's always good.
It's I'm glad
I love a bunch of men sitting around an office deciding what my physiology should be. That makes me feel so good.
They ain't looking at your physiology.
Yeah. These complete strangers get to tell me how I
And
am.
so
Creepy.
that lasted till 2004. Okay, 2004, they said no 115/75. And then they said, look, for every 20 millimeters of mercury, your risk of cardiovascular disease increases such a percent. I'm thinking, damn, that looks really official. It's looked like they actually studied it. Well, 115/75 was the new norm. Bam, that lasted to 2014,
Okay.
where now it was, if you're over 60, it was 150/90. And they have a more relaxed guideline. So that was at 2014. And so now the American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology, okay, decided, no, we don't want 150/90 for people over 60. We're going to want 130/80 for everyone. So it's not the new guidelines. It's these people broke away from the Joint National Committee. So now 1 in 2 Americans qualify to be diagnosed with high blood pressure and put on medications.
Now, I've read that a lot of these guidelines and recommendations are actually put together by the pharmaceutical industries and then given to these committees and people like that and the AMA. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Okay.
look at the medical colleges. Where do they get their funding for the research? It's all, pharmaceutical industry funded.
So the way they're saying it is that this is just new research that we're more enlightened now. We know how the body works now better. And this is just new research that you need to be healthy, right? Is that kind of how they're spinning it?
It is. Oh,
New
That's
way
so
to be
crazy.
human.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay, I got this 75-year-old guy, patient. He's been with me for, I think, 15 years, but the guy is like a rock. I mean, works out every day, just chiseled.
Yeah.
Well, like 15 years earlier, he had his prostate removed. He had a high PSA blood test or prostate-specific antigen. They said, look, man, this could be cancer. We got to remove it, do the courageous thing and have it removed. So when you have that that prostate gland removed, it's the size of a walnut, but it's in a really sensitive area. Erectile dysfunction, bowel and bladder control issues, everything. 10 years goes by, and his PSA starts to rise, prostate-specific antigen.
Wait, it starts to
Go up.
rise. Okay.
Okay,
But he has no prostate.
Yeah, that
Right.
was a little problem.
Yeah. Well, that's just a minor thing. We'll talk about later.
Details.
So he goes up to the
Details.
oncologist, and the oncologist says, well, we know a lot more now than we knew back then.
All the way back then.
All the way back then. and it's like now, even in medical colleges, they're saying 50% of what we teach you is wrong. We just don't know what half.
Wait, they're not, are they saying that?
The smart ones are. It's like Lucian Leap,
Wow.
okay, who says that medical, and he's working just on stats and
Who is this?
facts. Lucian Leap, medical doctor.
Okay.
He says that the medical system is the third leading cause of death in America, behind heart disease and cancer, except a lot of the therapies are causing heart disease and cancer. But, it's the equivalent of 3 jumbo jets crashing every 2 days. Okay, and that's the number of people being killed by the medical procedures we're utilizing.
Let me get the wrap
Three
my mind.
jumbo jets crashing every 2 days.
Every 2 days. Oh my gosh.
We're talking 180,000 people a year dying from, 106,000 people a year dying from the right drug at the right time in the right dosage.
Yeah.
106,000.
106,000.
What does that average to per day, I wonder? It's got to be a lot.
I'll
Lots.
look it up.
106,000. That's like an epidemic that's happening that no one's really talking about.
Well, that's the dead. We're not talking about the wounded.
Right,
the
right,
sick,
right.
yeah.
Okay, and that's why we are on the
290
the
a
crux,
day.
290 people? And that's just in America?
Yep.
just in America.
Great.
Yeah, so that's just on the drug. That's the right drug. That's not malpractice or anything
Right.
else. So the costs are too much. You would think health would drive the change, but it's just the money isn't there. Okay, you're paying hundreds. The leading cause of bankruptcies now in America is medical costs, and these are people with insurance.
With insurance.
So the health insurance and the whole Obamacare psychosis, when they're trying to get young people who aren't going to utilize the services to pay in a totally dysfunctional system to keep the dysfunctional system alive.
Now, do we know, Kate and I were talking about this the other day, and the last I read, the average cancer patient, I think, is worth somewhere around $770,000 for all their treatments and things like that, right? So there's this huge industry if you look at it like that. But we're talking about the amount of people that are going to be diagnosed and who are diagnosed with autism. So now you have a population, right, that a cancer patient, whether they live or die, it's around the 5-year mark is when they get most of their treatment. So you have a 5-year window there of earning that $250,000 or $750,000. But with an autism patient, they're diagnosed at 5 years old and they live till 75 or 85, whatever their age that they live to. So now you have this cost that's spread out through lack of production in the workforce and also treatment. So I wonder what, in your research, have you looked at anything in terms of what the cost will be on the economy? It's got to be just dwarf cancer, I would imagine.
Well, to hit it's called the autistic tsunami. Because when they're under 21 years old, they're under their parents' insurance. And then when they're hit 21, they're going to be drawn on Social Security if they have that option. Okay, because so by 2025, it will be $1 trillion a year. And increasing exponentially.
Just for autism.
Yeah, because and it depends on the statistics that you're looking at, between 2025 and 2030, that's when 1 in 2 kids will be diagnosed on that autism spectrum disorder scale.
1 in 2 kids.
1 in 2 kids. So think of this. Okay, you've seen like, not Night of the Living Dead. What's the TV show now with all the zombies?
Walking Dead? Yeah.
Okay, so imagine this. Okay, these are people that don't qualify for Social Security, 40-year-old autistic people, nonverbal, walking around looking in trash cans and everything else. You can't communicate to them or anything else. We're at that stage now where we can look into the future and say, my God, there's some massive neurologic damage that's affecting us. And it's not just affecting our economy. I mean, they're trying. They got economic crisis in Saudi Arabia, and that's where we tied our dollar to back in the 70s,
right?
To the petrodollar. So the economic crisis of even non-communicable diseases. Now, this is, according to the World Health Organization, this is part of autism, mental disorders, cardiovascular diseases, all these cancers, all these diseases that you can't catch.
Right.
You've got to actually earn through a toxic, deficient lifestyle, or what the medical world says, bad luck or bad genes.
Just luck of the draw.
Luck of the draw.
Yeah.
You know, except the luck of the draw, people are drawing the bad cards now, and they weren't 50 years ago.
So you have one side of that, of the $1 trillion epidemic, that's going to be the autism side. Mm-hmm. But then that's just the drain on the economy that it's going to be on one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is lack of production and lack of productive work that they could be doing, either starting their own businesses or working for a corporation or working for a business that's going to be helping the world. So you have gosh, what's that cost?
The thing that we had that was a good idea in theory, but it ain't working out in practice, is that when you're young, you pay into a system. When you're young and productive, and when you're older and less productive, you can draw on that system. And then, their kids, become young and productive and pay into a system. Then the older people draw on that system. And
in theory, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds great, except so many people started with draw in that system, and it wasn't just for old people. Now it was for handicapped people or people that death benefits. Like my dad died when I was really young, so I actually got a little bit of a Social Security till I was 18.
So it's that kind of thing as well. Gosh.
Yeah.
So what is the state of our economy and nation going to be when you have 1 in 2? Is that 1 in 2 boys or just 1 in 2 kids who are going to have autism?
It's 1 in 2 children, but it's the boys are affected at a higher rate.
So what's that going to cost in terms of our economy, our military, productive work and society?
We're going to be doing a talk in January on the debt at the end of the world. And it sounds dramatic, but it's not really. It really is the end of the concepts that you think are the world now. Okay, and what the world is coming to. And I mean, there's going to be a lot of people clinging to their belief systems which are not effective.
Right.
Like monocrops. Okay, we got nothing but massive corn. It's depleting the soil. It's causing a toxification of the water system, of the soils, of the air. I mean, we're getting people in from the Midwest, Iowa and Kansas, with weird skin disorders, with bowel disorders, with everything. And you could see, how far away do you guys live from the farm fields? Oh, like, a mile. Do you have water filters on? Well, kinda, not really. I mean, we live off well water, and I'm going, oh, good God.
Yeah,
it's even worse.
Aaron Brockovich.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling, but you can see everything's coming to a head, and this is why they're forcing people to get vaccinated for their work, or they've got one now. Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh.
They've got a medication with an electronic tracker in there.
I saw that.
To make sure that you're taking it. It wasn't FDA approved yet, but it's the theory is it's for people with dementia that might forget to take their pills.
Right.
And
I can't even believe that. I read that article. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding.
So what is it? A chip?
It's a little tiny pill. It's a
does it stay
computer.
In your, does it
basically a tracker?
Yeah, it sends something to your Bluetooth to say, yeah, you took it.
So it sits under. It's got to stay in your skin or something, right?
No.
It goes
You
into your
swallow
belly.
this pill. It hits the stomach. It has a reaction to being processed by your digestive tract, and it sends a signal to your phone or local Big Brother monitor, and they say, yes, you've taken
Your Amazon
pill.
Echo.
Your Amazon Echo. And I could just see some guys that, already planning, good, I can make some stomach acid and put it on the counter and drop the pill in there, and they'll think I'm taking it,
It's just madness.
New movie right there.
Yeah.
Madness.
They'll think you're in New York when you're in Sacramento.
And that's because look at this. It is madness.
It is.
I mean, the people that are protecting us, okay, the people that are health authorities, they're working off a dogmatic, skewed, non-scientific, non-vitalistic approach to health. I mean, it's not. it's not conducive to how the body works. And when you present logic, okay, like, is the population getting healthier or sicker? Well, it's sicker, but we're living longer.
Yeah.
Really, what are the data points on that? If you factor out infant mortality rate, you're going to see that the human lifespan hasn't really changed in 2,000 years.
Yeah.
You're talking just our founding fathers, John Adams, 90, Franklin, 84. These guys, we're talking productive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big thing to factor in, the infant mortality rate, because all of a sudden you got one person who dies at 100, then you have a kid that dies at birth, and all of a sudden that's 50. So, I mean, infant mortality is a huge thing to factor in or not factor in when you're considering that.
But this is what they're teaching the doctors in school. They're saying, look, the reason that we have diseases are because people are living longer and they used to die at 35, and that's why we're the godsend, because we can give them enough drugs to keep their physiology controlled so they can live longer.
That's so crazy. It's so nuts.
It's insane. But luckily the economy is going to drive the change, because there's not going to be enough money. The dollar isn't going to be worth hardly anything. Okay, it's like, think back in Russia. People bringing wheelbarrows full of money to buy bread. And so we're coming up to that status where people are going to have to totally rethink their lifestyle. You can't abdicate authority over your health and expect somebody else to run it. And I had a great discussion with a doctor who came to our cholesterol talk, last week. And he's saying, well, you have to lower their cholesterol, otherwise it clogs arteries. And I'll say, well, doc, why doesn't it clog the capillaries, which is the smallest thing? Why is it going underneath the epithelium, the lining of the artery?
Right.
And that's where it deposits. So it's obviously not clogging it. Why is it going to the big arteries?
Right.
Why doesn't it clog the veins? So his logic was so skewed into, well, no, we have to drug people. And the new economy is going to be appreciation for this vitalistic force that's your body. And you have to do certain things. You have to sleep correctly. You have to think of what goes in your food, how far away your food comes from. Okay, what's your metabolism like? That's why, like, the Extreme Health Academy is so vital. I mean, this is going to be a resource for people that are going to utilize to maintain optimal health throughout their entire life. If you get a virus, by gosh, I want you to get a fever. Okay, if you have a toxic, deficient lifestyle where you're dehydrated and poisoned, goodness gracious, we got to raise your blood pressure because your blood isn't healthy.
It's a protective mechanism.
It's a protective mechanism. So a lot of these things that the medical community now is viewing as disease processes, it's an intelligent response of the body to a toxic, deficient environment.
Yeah, it's a completely different worldview, like we're talking about at the cafe, of just understanding that the body is smart and intelligent. That's your whole thing. And it's so true, because that idea is not perpetuated, talked about, or taught in medical schools, because it's our bodies are broken and we need these drugs to fix them. And that's the theory, but it's not true.
That's
not true.
That's a conversation I had with this doctor who attended the class, and then I said the body is self-healing, self-regulating, and intelligent. He said, yeah, well, what if somebody has pericardial effusion? Okay, that means the sac around the heart starts to, fill up with fluid.
He was just trying to confuse you with big words, and you've already know those words. So.
I like the big words. They were really cool.
He was trying, you got to give him credit.
And he says, if we don't give him a diuretic, okay, the water pill, okay, or we don't drain the fluid, that the body isn't intelligent, it's stupid, okay, in cases like that. And I said, doc, why don't I'd approach that case a little different. Okay, granted, if the fluid around the heart is slowing down the heart, you got to drain the fluid. But what led to that was the person, obviously they're not breaking the proteins to amino acids. They have a problem with digestion because the integrity of their tissue, or their lung tissue, of the blood vessels, okay, it's not there. So is it long-term protein deficiency? Okay, and you can't have protein deficiency in America. That's freaking crazy. Okay, there's protein in wheatgrass, for goodness sake. But so what was the medications he was on? What was his lifestyle like when he was on? How do we change that?
What was his response?
it was weird because he says, no, the body isn't smart.
He actually said that to you?
That he said word for word, body isn't smart. It does stupid things. And people are living longer, so they develop these diseases. I mean, it's such a skewed, non-based in science or fact or anything.
How old was he? Do you know?
50, 60, something like that. Young kid.
I'm interested because I'm curious about like the the next generation. I'm wondering if this theory I have is accurate in any way. Do you think that, like you talked about, we're in the dark ages of health right now, and if we continue where we're going, it's not going to be good for us. But
Don't.
Yeah. So my question is, like, I wonder if we need to wait for that generation of people to sort of go away, and this younger generation of up and coming medical doctors, if they're going to be as indoctrinated, because these younger kids that are coming through the medical school now are exposed to, I mean, as stupid as it sounds, Facebook memes and photos and little short videos, and they're exposed to this type of information that might make them go do some research on their own. And so I'm wondering if the younger generation coming up is going to be way more part of the Renaissance. I would think.
We don't have the time. You're talking 20 years for a generation. And they're already lowering the SAT scores because the kids are not getting smarter. These are kids getting a ton of toxic food, and they
are sicker.
And we only have maybe 5 to 10 years left. I mean, 2025, that's 8 years from now. Okay, and that's when 1 in 2 kids will be diagnosed with autism. That's the $1 trillion a year mark when the autistic tsunami hits. And so we don't have that much time. The economy is going to, Deutsche Bank's going to fall, next year, the year after?
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, so, there's every other country in the world is experiencing the economic collapse. And since the system is run on the economics, the clogged artery theory of cardiovascular disease, where's the economics there? You get an angiogram, you get, a chemical stress test, you get, the balloon angioplasty, then the stents, and then the bypass. And when in reality, you can clean the arteries by doing juicing and blending. And the clogged artery theory was, blown out of the water in the 70s when they did on autopsy. They found out that clogged arteries aren't associated with 80% of the time somebody has a heart attack.
Yeah, we've had heart doctors on the show say the same thing.
And
cardiologists say the same thing, natural ones.
Yeah, so those dogmatic approaches don't work. That gastrointestinal problems have nothing to do with diet. Irritable bowel, ulcerative colitis. No, doesn't. We just had a patient that came out from the Bahamas, and she had a pain in her tummy. And I went in, and there's a thing that you do. You test for rebound tenderness. There was no sign of any appendix or any impending doom or problem. So I said, look, put a moist hot pack in your tummy, drink a little bit more water, get some bacteria-containing foods, and your body's just adapting because you were in the Bahamas last week and you're in America this week, and you probably ate something that it's a change of bacteria. She goes to the hospital. Oh. It's probably appendix. Okay, it's really bad. And then they do an ultrasound, and they couldn't find anything wrong with the appendix, and so they put her in the hospital, and they said, looks like your intestines are inflamed. So we're going to put you on a diet of Jell-O and white bread because we want the intestinal tract to not work really hard. I'm going
Jell-O and white bread.
Jell-O and white bread. And, so it's glyphosate white bread, and Jell-O is going to be genetically modified high fructose corn syrup.
From cows that have been hormonally injected with all kinds of stuff.
Both have natural antibiotic properties, which are going to kill the normal gut flora. And it's like,
golly. So what's the solution? Education?
Education is the key.
Understanding how the body works, and
a radical shift between the mechanistic view that's now, that parts of your body are broken, so we drug you or cut out the part. Okay, that there's a vitalistic force, that every system is interconnected with each one, and they call it holistic. Oh boy, that's a buzzword now.
Yeah.
Jesus, you got a doctor that isn't holistic, that's a specialist in one area. How could he possibly fix your cardiovascular system without looking at your digestive or sleep or emotional status? How could anyone fix the pulmonary system without looking at the interdependency of your spleen or kidneys or, I mean, it's impossible.
So part of it on one side is education and learning how the body actually works. And then on the other side, I think it's really important to look at studies and look at things and see like, okay, this society that we have now, this current culture that we have now, is it getting healthier or is it getting sicker, like you were saying before? So people have to start realizing what we're doing now is not working. And so having little cracks in the armor like that and realizing, wow, like this whole medical procedure of treating pregnancy like a medical condition, and they have to go to a hospital and all this stuff, that's only been going on for 120 years. People and women have been giving birth, naturally at home or somewhere else for thousands of years, right? So realizing that the current system is not working. I think the problem is a lot of people just are buying hook, line, and sinker into the current medical paradigm without looking at the big picture and saying, wow, 1 in 2 kids are having autism. All of these diseases are on the rise, and we've got to start looking at what the current model is and is it working? And then also get the education on the other side,
Think of like you drive a car, right? Mm-hmm. Are you really good with your transmission? No. Okay. So now if you had a problem with the transmission, you put it in drive and it wouldn't go forward, you'd take it to the expert. And the expert the all-seeing, all-knowing transmission expert would say, look, you're just low on fluid, or, you need a major overhaul. The blinker fluid is wrong.
Right.
Blinker fluid is like non-existent. It's just like a fun term.
Right.
Okay. But you don't know, and that people don't know about their health.
Right.
Okay. So they go into the authority and they say, I feel great, but I want to make sure because my uncle died of cancer and my mom and dad, they're in a rest home. I don't want to be like that. Mm-hmm. So what test do I do? Teach me, oh, great expert.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Please use some Latin terms so I know that you're smart.
Throw big words at me.
Yeah.
Make me feel stupid.
Can I give a really good example?
Yeah.
I had a weird week, a polarizing week. My grandparents live next door to us because we moved. And he's 95, she's 83, going through brain cancer. And, at her age, they're like, we can operate, get you a year, or you cannot do anything and have months. So they get out a big chunk of it, but it's all, tentacles and stuff. So they follow up with chemo. So here we are living next door to her. We've seen her decline within a matter of 6 months, now on a walker, lost all her hair, did radiation. Now she's on chemo. And I find it so interesting talking to her. It's like, not only is she nauseous and sick and gets all those things along with the chemo and vomiting and stuff, but like every other night, a Papa John's pizza truck, comes to the thing, and they have a 24-hour caregiver, and they're eating pizza, they're eating all this, regular stuff. Well, I was talking with my dad, and he goes, yeah, it's so weird. They go to the doctor once a week, whether they want to and have a need for it or not. That's what they do. That's just their modus operandi.
Is this new? They've
been doing this for a few years. They go to the doctor, whether they need to, literally once a week, just because that makes them feel like they're being looked after. Somebody's got this master plan of where they're going with their health. It's just so fun. Yeah, my dad goes, I sit there and I wait, and they go in and talk to him and come out, and, everything's covered by Medi-Cal or whatever it is. And they go because they can, and it doesn't cost them anything. And they just like to make sure. And then it was like, so I'm struggling to understand that paradigm, and they're old, and that's kind of the shift you were saying, this older generation.
Right.
And then I saw on Facebook a YouTube video or something. I don't know if it was in Poland or Siberia, but it was a school of little tiny elementary kids. You probably saw it too. And their teachers take them into a giant wood sauna. And they sit in the sauna for 30 minutes as a group, all in their little towel, no clothes on. There's no embarrassment, by the way, which I think is so cool. And they're all naked in there. Yeah. And then they get out into the snow for 10 minutes, and they go and they run around in the snow, freezing barefoot. And they take these giant buckets of ice water, or freezing cold water, and pour it over their head. And then they run around and they go back in and get in the sauna. And it's that's what they do for immune treatment. System. And they're the healthiest kids. You guys should look up that video, but it's super intense. But I'm like, this was all within 3 days. I saw that video, and then I looked next door and see this
such a dichotomy.
It was such a dichotomy, but I'm like, gosh, in one way it was okay, they're going back to the roots of, they know how to treat themselves. They know how to not get flu shots and stay healthy and stuff. So that was exciting. But you're right. I also agree with Justin, where it was this whole old paradigm is
slowly
it's
going away.
So going away. It has to go away.
A link.
I was so excited and oddly disturbed, but
this is so cool.
I come from this line of people. I'm like, no, and this is where it stops. It has to stop here.
We're the end. We're the ones that are lucky enough to know the stupid horror, crazy stuff, and see the brilliance. Imagine this. Okay, the school system, first grade. This is where your lungs are. This is where your brain is. This is how your brain talks to your body. Okay, this is what happens when you sleep. Second grade. Okay, we've got blood, and the blood is fantastic and amazing, and this is what you build. This is why we pray before our meals, or if the religious people would get, or the non-religious people would freak out. Okay, this is why we look at our food with great, awareness.
Energetics of it
and
all.
then fifth grade, they roll around. Okay, this is your musculoskeletal system. This is your sexual system. This is how the whole body works. Okay, each year you're taught this. So that you have an education by the time you're a full-grown adult
of how to take care of yourself.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to develop a fever when I get a virus. I'm going to eat right. If I get, have to stay up late at night studying in college, I know I'm probably going to get sick, so I better do some more omega-3s and some vitamin C. I'm going to go to get my nervous system checked on a regular basis. Maybe, colonic once a year to get my bowels working correctly. I'm going to eat healthy amounts of bacteria. They're just going to be responsible for themselves. And they're not going to need to go to the transmission mechanic.
Yeah, and they're not going to look at people as being the authority. That's one of the things that gets me today is like everything is like the fire authority, the police authority, the authority this, authority that.
Yep.
But they're going to realize like they are the authority themselves.
I got this one patient. It's kind of cool too, because I say the same thing to everybody. Look, your body's smart. Okay, it's responding to the environment correctly. This is why you have high blood pressure. This is why you have poor sleep patterns. Your body's in a stress state. And this one old guy says, "Doc, no one's ever told me my body's smart. Is it?" And I say, yeah,
I was just
told
kidding
him about it.
Tall tale.
It's cool because you see this awareness.
Yeah.
And then you break it down to say, man, you ever cut yourself? Yeah. Ever heal? Yeah, all the time. And because there's a wisdom, there's a vital force energy. When people start looking in the mirror and smiling, and they realize that there's more than just a collection of parts, that this is all one vibrant whole.
Yeah.
And that's why it's holistic.
Well, and then fighting to protect that. Like we were saying at the coffee shop yesterday, came out an article, David Wolf and Erin Elizabeth from Health Nut News posted on their sites 50 healthcare professionals working at a hospital in the Midwest all got fired yesterday because they refused to get the flu shot. So there's 50 people who probably, like we were saying 10 years ago, would have just been like stuck out their arm and just taken it because they need the income or they are worried about what they're going to do or their families. And it's like 50 people yesterday walked away.
And then think too, it's a trickle down effect too, because those people are all gone and they'll probably try to go to other hospitals and get work too. But you figure that hospital where those 50 people left, there's going to be a need for 50 more people. And those people are going to be like, why are there 50 people that all of a sudden, how come you're hiring 50 new nurses all of a sudden? And it might get them to start thinking too. So it's trickle down thing.
It would be neat to do like a crowdfunding source for anyone that wants to refuse the shot.
Oh, totally.
We'll buy you a cool mask if you get fired. You're going to have a fund that you can have available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
I'd contribute to that.
Yeah.
I would too.
Yeah. Anybody listening to this, if you start it, give me a call. I'll contribute.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is a good, there's hope, even though the end of the world's coming. There's hope in it all, It's like,
no, for sure the world will go on.
Yeah.
And the people will go on. But
the end of this world.
Oh, the end of this world.
paradigm.
And which, thank God, because, we're losing too many kids.
Right.
You're going to start looking at your community, looking at it, being more responsible for your own health. A Pizza Hut, by God, if they switch to organic dough and ethically raised animals and organic produce, bam.
Yep.
I'll be a Pizza Hut fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to be?
It's amazing.
Yeah. It is amazing.
Yeah. So this is sort of why we're doing what we're doing behind the Extreme Health Academy is realizing I just, for me, I'm just so tired and sort of just sick and tired of seeing all these people that are sick, especially like people that are younger, in their 30s, 40s, going through these cancers or these kids. And I think that's one of the reasons why we started Extreme Health Academy. And it's not launched yet. It's going to be launched pretty soon. I think mid-January is when we're going to launch it. But it's to educate people to take care of their own health and to realize health is really simple. It's really simple. I mean, there's some great tools, like we sell a sauna, there's a rebounder, there's a vibration plate at your clinic, and but there's all kinds of tools that can help speed up the process of getting healthy, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are great tools, but it's really simple. And I think we need to educate people and tell people there are options. If you want to go the medical route, that's great, but try some natural things first. And most likely, I would say in most every instance, you're going to get some resolve to that.
Oh, and then you've got on the site, you've got, what is the health tracker?
I have a health tracker on there, to track your progress over time.
And then we can go through and we're get the webinars monthly, then a podcast, and we're going to actually show how to do certain tests, what tests mean, how to monitor your physiology. I mean, if you've gotten scare tactics on a blood test, we're going to show what the reference ranges are, how to take them, how to check them, how to monitor your progress.
That's going to be so good. That's going to be so good because we're talking before about the reference ranges for the current medical paradigm and how different that is from actual health. And so that's going to be really helpful for people, because you said you have people coming in your clinic and they have a reference range of 0.2 to 1.7 or 1.6, and someone comes in with a 1.7 on their thyroid or something, and they're freaked out that they're not healthy. That's because some outside force is telling them that they're not healthy. When in fact, like you're saying, how do you feel? How do you operate? And maybe if you got that test 5 minutes later, it would be a 1.5. And so there's this education and this stripping down of the fear tactics that I think is so necessary for people.
It's going to be so much fun. Less like when you get conditions that are ridiculously popular, like high blood pressure or type 2 diabetes, those have an objective analysis. And so you're pricking your finger to check your blood, or checking your blood pressure. By gosh, within a week of following some of the advice that's on that site, they're going to see a change in blood sugar and blood pressure. And then they've got to develop a conversation with the person that gave them the medications to control that condition. Okay. And they're going to find out that, oh my God, they're the ones in charge of their own health, that they don't need to abdicate authority over their own health, that, my God, through this site, they're going to learn how everything works.
That's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited, and I'm mostly excited about how people's health is going to turn around. Because there's gonna be so many tools. Because there's, I've been in this for a few years, and I've been into natural health since 2003. So not nearly as long as you, but a long time. And this is something that I sort of wanted for myself. Something where I could track certain things over time and look at different numbers over time and get a gauge and see, okay, is this going up or down, or different ways of looking at your health, and having a community. We have so many cool people in our community, and I'm sure you guys do too, where, man, Kate and I talk about it all the time. This person should meet this person. This person is really, really cool. This person would get, hit it off with this person, and a community would help do that, like a private community.
And that's at Extreme Health Academy.
Yeah.
You've got the forum that could be on, the health tracker, the webinars, the podcast. I mean, this is going to be such an amazing source. I actually get comments on some of our videos that they'll send me links that I didn't even know about. They'll send me this this was back a few years, the big slam on double-blind controlled, placebo-controlled trials.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it was from the British Medical Journal talking about how parachutes have never been tested that way. There's never been a randomized double-blind. Okay, all four of us go in on the airplane. One of us doesn't have a parachute that's full of bricks. Okay, and then we see if it really does cause death.
I like that.
It's so those kind of links that you can't get unless you're in a community.
Right.
It's like a real cohesive source, and plus two people that have gone through health challenges, depression, anxiety, poor sleep. They were on a CPAP machine. They had erectile dysfunction. I mean, all of this stuff. What did you do? Oh my gosh. this is the pathway. This is what they followed. I mean, it's
going to be cool.
Is really, really
and one
cool.
of the things that we've talked about is we're going to have it so that the members can vote on, so we'll give like 5 or 6 or 7 options or something, and the members will be able to vote on what course they want next. So that's really cool too, because then you're creating content that people want, you know.
Yeah, and then the one of the webinars, they're going to have interactions too, where they can call in their questions and.
So there'll be
access.
Yeah,
well, like
ask you.
You and I are always saying, like, 1,000 times we've been to your office. There's always somebody that just flew in from New Zealand or the Bahamas, or people come worldwide to see you, but not everyone can. So it's access to you too. You know, it's like these questions they're dying to ask you that, you know, this is just a really good thing for people who can't get on a plane and spend time at a hotel or a clinic, and they get to feel like they're making progress with healing. And
at the clinic.
It excites me. Yeah.
I was just texting one of our patients from Saudi Arabia, and it's like, you know, I can't come out there until March. What do I do now?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like there's so many little things you can do to get your body healthy. I mean, it's like you say, health is really easy.
It's really simple. Yeah, it's just cutting out most of everything that we're doing in our modern culture, like sitting under these blue lights and everything that we're doing, sitting for long periods of time. I mean, it's really simple stuff, but there's so many things people can do in the meantime to radically improve their health and not be so fearful of these numbers, because you get these numbers that, like you said, every 10 years they're changing the different reference points on a lot of these blood tests and biomarkers, and people get so freaked out and they get so scared that those numbers are actually getting worse because of the fear now that they're somehow damaged and they're not healthy and they need to go to a doctor to tell them what their current state of health is. So taking control of all of that and adopting principles are going to help us to live a long time, healthy, disease-free, lots of energy. Because really, kind of what I think about is when I first got into this, I was really into studying all the different aspects of health, and I still am. But it's become sort of a lifestyle for me now, so I don't really think about it as much. I just I go throughout my day and do the things I love to do, like you like to do archery and things like that. And I just focus on that kind of stuff. And I'll make a green smoothie, I'll go make a green juice, we'll go have paleo stuff and food combined correctly and all these things. It just becomes sort of the way we live, and it's not really a focus of ours. But so that's where I want everyone to get to, is where it just becomes the default platform that your life sits on. And then you can actually have the energy, instead of focusing all your time trying to heal, which is one of the things we want to do, and get people to a level of vibrant health, then they can actually go do the things they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Actually
instead of focusing, live life, instead of focusing on their health, have it be the foundation that they base their life on, and then they're going to have the energy to go do the things they want to do and help affect some sort of change. That's the idea.
That's weird. You know, what you're describing, I never really thought about it, but it's true. It becomes so natural and secondary. Like you would, if you're hungry, you're driving down the road, you see a McDonald's and a Carl's Jr., and you think, boy, those commercials were cool, but that's not really food.
That's the way I think. Yeah, it's not even edible. Yeah.
And it's just a totally different lifestyle. Thanksgiving yesterday, or the day before yesterday, one of my nephew's girlfriend was bitten by a dog, and I mean, bitten pretty nasty. They actually bit part of her thumb off. Ooh. Well, through the antibiotics, and they gave her an incorrect one, and they sewed the wound up too tight, so that required a second round of antibiotics, and then that caused a secondary infection that then she had to spend 2 days in the hospital. So from an initial dog bite, they almost killed her with the antibiotics. And she says, what do I do? So I go to the refrigerator, I grab this little, fermented beverage. It's called a gut shot. Okay.
Oh yeah. That stuff's really good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, super spicy, right?
Yeah, really I like it. I mean, that's actually my cocktail at the end of the night. Nice. I'll take that because it's nice. And I gave her a bottle of it. She says, but wait a second, this is bacteria. And so in her mind, she's been fighting bacteria.
Oh, right.
Hon, it's not the bacteria that's getting you. I said, this is where your immune system is. You got to take it. Take a quarter of this bottle tonight. Take it, you kill it, knock it out. But that's like in the refrigerator.
It's there.
To keep my body healthy, just for normal. And in an emergency situation, this is what you need.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You give a sick, deficient body the appropriate nutrients, bacteria and stuff, appropriate sleep, appropriate thought patterns and everything else, because you can change how your brain thinks. You give the same thing to a healthy person to keep them healthy.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And one of the things too is that, like, we talk a lot about, the cascading effects of going into getting some sort of procedure done, right? So like, if someone has, if they have, let's say, osteoporosis, their hip bone breaks and they fall, and people think they fall because of they just fell and then their hip bone broke. And then they go and do surgery on the hip bone or do a hip replacement, and they realize that all these heavy metals and chemicals are inside the bone that get released into the body of a patient who's older, who might already have dementia. And then you put them on medication for all that. And then, so all of that started by a lifestyle, a toxic lifestyle that's contributing to the bone and mineral matrix of the body not working correctly. So then they go into for a simple procedure or surgery on their bone, and then they have all these cascading effects from that. And you've seen it so many times. And so by adopting simple lifestyle habits, you can prevent all of that from happening.
Yep.
All of it.
Everything.
It's like
when people say you die of a broken, she broke her hip and she died. She went downhill.
Yeah.
It's so the story that goes.
Yeah.
What led up to
leading up to that is just
completely preventable.
Was she taking Tums or antacids?
Yeah.
Did she have a little bit of reflux or indigestion? Did she have poor sleep? All of this stuff. Did she twist her ankle, or was she taking blood pressure medications and she was too dizzy to walk? It's human beings don't have thinning of the bone unless there's a toxic or deficient aspect to their life. They don't. Our species doesn't.
I would like to look at, have you done a lot of the research in the Weston A. Price and all of his stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Did he talk about, were there any ancient cultures that had osteoporosis?
None.
I can't think of.
None. There weren't.
It's a modern thing.
The cultures that they allowed him to unearth the skulls, he couldn't find any cavities in the skulls. Because you're talking, enamel can regenerate if you have healthy blood. So it was just never. Forget these diseases and stuff.
This is all modern lifestyle stuff.
All modern lifestyle. And, if there were cancers, and because that's where it came from, there was some type of toxic exposure, because they used lead pipes in the Roman times. There was, some water sources that weren't, clear. That's why, you don't dig a hole, poop in the hole, and dig a well next to that.
Right.
This is where all the cholera epidemics are coming from.
Yeah.
But thank God we got a vaccine now for diarrhea.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
One of the things that I've learned over the years was from Daniel Vitalis, and he has a really cool way of describing this. And he was saying that the human body needs medicine. It just needs medicine. It needs the alkaloids to be able to create its immune system. And so what happens is, he says that we become so disconnected from nature that we end up not using nature's medicine, like reishi mushroom and chaga mushroom and all these immune adaptive herbs, oregano and all these types of things. We've become so disconnected from that your body needs medicine, and it will get it at some point. So you either take that stuff as a lifestyle and that's your medicine, or the pharmaceutical companies come in, extract, a couple different alkaloids from those things, and they hijack it and then sell it back to you for thousands of dollars because you need it now. You need your medicine. When in actuality, if you just got on a lifestyle of making bone broth with reishi mushroom, or making your coffee with reishi mushroom, or using these herbs as medicine as part of your daily life, you never need the pharmaceutical synthesized stuff, because your lifestyle has this medicine. And he was saying, like, yeah, we need medicine, but it just depends, like, what kind. And your body, you will take it at some point. And I thought that was a really interesting approach. Really interesting idea.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Why do you put the oregano in? Well, it's antimicrobial. It strengthens the immune system, or it tastes good. Why do you put the garlic in there?
Yeah.
Well, garlic is antimicrobial, and antifungal. It's phenomenally beneficial. It can kill pathogenic bacteria, and it tastes good.
Yeah. And I don't know why we don't think of it as medicine, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, dark chocolate is good for you too. Oh, I like raw organic dark chocolate.
Yeah. So we're really excited about this academy we're starting.
Oh my God,
man, it's going to be
yes.
so cool. We've been working on this thing like crazy, and I know you've created your first course in there, which
So
is
exciting.
the How to Get
legit.
Healthy course. It's just phenomenal.
To refer every one of my patients to it, it's going to be so clear, so nice. And then to have that sense of community and everything.
And it's going to be cool too, because we'll do the monthly member masterminds where we're going to be able to ask you questions about different disease processes, and people can get your insights on that. And it's just going to be such a cool place.
Then on those mastermind things, are they going to be recorded too?
Yeah, they'll be recorded, and I think we might do them live. Can we do those live?
So they could be
Yeah.
live recorded, so they can always have access to it.
Yeah.
Because I've been told sometimes I talk a little fast, and so
You?
well, occasionally.
If you've
How much coffee you got?
had too much coffee or something, but
Yeah, but it had some reishi mushrooms in it. It was great.
yeah, we'll record all of that stuff, and it'll be available as new content every month. And so we're going to be doing courses every month too, and it's just going to be a phenomenal place for people. I think it's going to be, like you called it, the Renaissance of people who are not just want to overcome their health condition, and that's it's going to be an amazing place for that. But once you get that, then you're going to be like taking your health to new levels and actually saying like, how long can I live? How much energy can I actually have? And
What can I add to the world?
What can I add to the
What am I
world?
here for?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you will. We're going to be infecting people with health, and they're going to make it an epidemic.
Yeah.
Because when you find out that oh my gosh, if I'm a very sick, deficient person, I'm a paraplegic in a wheelchair, what do I do to get my health back?
And you had some great tips in your first course for people like that.
Oh yeah,
That was really cool. Yeah.
And or you get the triathlete.
Yeah.
This is going to be for all
Yeah.
of those people to whatever state of health they're in. They're going to actually get benefit from it and find out, oh my God, we all have the same body, the same nutrient requirements. Just, how do we bring it in? How do we add it to our personal lifestyle to make a difference?
Yeah.
It's
This
gonna
is
be
a
really
hub
cool.
of hope.
Yeah.
Hub of
Dude, we should have called it that. That's a good idea.
Babe.
Guys, should ask me.
Hub. Should ask
No,
me.
but it is. Yeah, there's still time.
The hub of
No,
hope.
but I do feel like that's lacking in this world. It's a place where people have this haven of, because a quadriplegic, I mean, who's going to find much hope in that situation?
You know what?
You know?
I got to tell you, and this is what I tell my patients, because people come in with just bizarre conditions, but health stuff that they've been doing, and they're going, well, I hope this will work.
I hope.
I always say, forget hope. No, this stuff's guaranteed. Health is your natural state. Yeah, this is guaranteed. I absolutely are going to get better, and you can say that. If someone's had 4 rounds of chemotherapy, they're missing multiple parts, they're saying, I hope it gets better. I'm saying, I hope so too. But if they got most of the parts, health is your natural state. It's easy to fix.
It's our birthright,
Amen.
right?
Yeah,
Reclaim
it really is. Forget
reclaim
hope.
our territory.
This stuff's guaranteed.
Yeah, you don't,
Yeah.
like you said, use the analogy, cut your hand and hope it gets better. It does.
You know it
You
does.
give it the right conditions.
Yeah.
It's like the stuff that Bruce Lipton talks about. You change the environment, and the actual cells begin to grow into whatever they need to be for that environment.
Yeah.
So you clean up the environment, the cell becomes healthy.
Right.
You give the body the right conditions, and it will get better.
Well, a huge part of the cleanup starts up here.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
when we start believing, like you said, when you stop hoping and you start believing.
yeah.
Believing
It's-
with hope.
this stuff is guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good stuff. I'm excited. So if people want to sign up right now, it is not launched yet. We're recording, what are we at, November right now? Mid-November?
Yeah.
It should be launched. We're going to launch, I think, mid-January.
Is there a test launch or?
I'm not sure what we're going to do. We got to talk about that, about a test launch. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to see what buttons don't work and what's do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know,
Probably a
right?
good idea.
Well,
I mean, you can tell
Dr.
I'm a
B likes
computer.
to push buttons.
We will do a test on some level.
Yeah, because
Yeah, we will.
I actually do hit the screen, and it's not a touch screen.
yeah, that's a good idea. So we'll get a group of people in there to test it out and, tell us that
Button
this is...
pushers.
Yeah, button pushers.
Thank God.
More ways
Yeah.
than one.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, for sure.
But we're actually going to be doing a challenge at the beginning of January. So, realize last January is when we recorded a podcast that was almost right in line with your first course that we did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was in here, and we recorded, I think, think mid-January, about how to keep the momentum going with your health. And so we're going to do a challenge starting January 1st. It's going to be a 21-day challenge. It's going to be free for people to sign up for, giving them daily tasks to do that are simple, that are easy, and most likely won't require. I think there's a couple things that people may need to buy, but it's not like you have to go buy, a $2,500 juicer. It's simple things people can do every day, and that's going to be part of a free challenge leading up to a webinar, and then we're going to open the doors to the academy. So it's going to be really cool. Yeah.
Oh, I love those challenges because man, you get definitive goals in whatever aspect you're starting on. It's so helpful.
Yeah, and you're sharing it with other people. It becomes motivating because other people are doing it too. And
until it launches, where can they sign up for the email to stay posted?
ExtremeHealthAcademy.com is where.
And sign up with their email.
Yeah, right now it's just a video and just talking a little bit about what we're going to be doing there, and people can press the button. The button should work, and they can sign up for that. So
I'm really excited for this. This is going to be cool.
It's going to be cool. Good. Yeah, really, really cool. A lot of people are going to be helped. All right, Doc, we got to get you home.
Yep.
Gotta get home.
Gotta get
off to the boat.
I actually got 2 consults today.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So no boating today or no?
Yeah. I'm going to do them on the boat.
Oh, good. Are you really?
Shut up.
No.
I know. It's so cool.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool to be Dr. B.
Awesome.
Tomorrow.
That's right.
Tomorrow, filming tomorrow too.
Yeah.
Good.
That's how I am. It's like 7 days a week, but it's good. I like it. It's good work. All right, Doc. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to this.
We'll have to do it once a month, I think.
And I like meeting at the coffee house too.
That was
fun. Really good.
Super
cool.
Really good.
It's legit coffee.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.